The majority of them are rather complimentary, simply stating that they enjoy the show and enjoy watching me on it. Everything is difficult for ice road truckers, extremely risk-taking. These drivers drive big rigs across ice lakes and through snowy and ice terrain to remote areas of Alaska and Canada. Putting your faith in other drivers is crucial. Doing so could save your life on the road. Fans have been following Lisa Kelly and Alex Deagorski's perilous journeys for years as they battle truck issues, snowstorms, and potentially submerged ice. It may not have been what it appeared to be, Lisa stated recently. The decision will be yours to make after you hear the whole tale. How will you perceive their friendship going forward? The icy highways that Lisa Kelly travels on from season to season 3 to 5 and 10 to 11 completed what out of the 11 in all. From 2007 until 2017, the History Channel aired the show Ice Road Truckers, most often known as IRT. It has nothing to do with your average truck driver. These rig drivers ventured out onto ice highways, traversing frozen rivers and lakes in remote, freezing Alaska and Canada. Additionally, from seasons 3 through 6, the show tracked their journey via the Dalton Highway in Alaska, a road constructed on solid ground but covered in snow for the majority of the year. Moreover, the path remained distant and risky, despite advancements. From where did this concept originate? Ice Road Truckers was a 1-hour special that ran on the History Channel in the year 2000. It was airing as part of the series Suicide Missions, which went under the moniker Dangerous Missions. Later on, the dangerous and arduous task of driving across frozen lakes in Canada's northwest territories is described in Edith Iglau's book Dennis's Ice Road, from which that episode was adapted. You had to know that these roads weren't constructed with asphalt or gravel to comprehend the danger they posed. They seemed like solid blocks of ice, because a one misstep might cause a truck to come tumbling down. The event continued to draw big crowds beyond the year 2000 when it was rebroadcast under the name of Marvel Comics. Many were captivated. A full series was greenlit in 2006 by the History Channel. With them, they brought in Deadliest Catch creator Tom Beers to make it. For 2 months, the show followed 6 truckers as they navigated these icy roadways, transporting supplies to distant locations like diamond mines. The footage was shot in high definition. Just picture yourself driving for weeks on ice, while listening to breaking beneath the weight of your vehicle. Are you planning to continue? Lisa Kelly was one driver that stood out. A school bus driver, motocross rider, gas station clerk, pizza shop employee, and even a state trooper were all stops on her winding path to trucking. Winner of the freestyle motocross event, she sought a profession she could remain in for the long haul. Despite her enjoyment of fast-paced challenges, her interest in driving trucks led her to complete the necessary training and obtain her license. Carroll Transportation is a big trucking firm in Alaska, and Lisa was hired by them. A difficult task, though. She claimed that women in the industry had to put in double the effort, meaning that she had to do her own tasks, as well as fill in for co-workers when needed, all while keeping up with or surpassing their speed. Because she was a woman, being good wasn't sufficient. If she wanted to show her in her head, Lisa reportedly turned down a spot in season 6 when approached by journalist Kay O'Hara. A year off was all the producer had to say. By 2013, had departed from Carroll and was back for season 7, which ran only in Canada, this time as a Polaris driver. Commercial sectors. In 2015's 9th season, Lisa and her co-worker Daryl Ward started their own trucking firm. Tragically, Daryl's death in an airplane crash in 2016 ended their 2-season partnership. In early 2017, Lisa continued to run the business for the season 11 until Reno, Daryl's younger son, came over to finish the season with her. I bet you didn't know that by 2010, she had become a part of Ice Road Truckers' Deadliest Routes, a spin-off series when she and other drivers Alex Deagorski, Dave Redmond, and Rick Yam tackled the perilous Indian Himalayan routes. There was not enough room for one vehicle on the narrow mountain passes. The sides of the roadways were disintegrating and led into deep valleys. Additionally, Lisa was the sole driver to finish the whole Himalayan trip. When she came back for a second time in late 2011, she bravely traversed Bolivia's youngest road, Death Road, and the treacherous routes of southern Peru during the season of worst roads in South America. Presumably, Rick and Dave were present, but additional new drivers Hugh Rowland, GWBS Augustine Tino Rodriguez and Timothy Tim Arzica were also present. Lisa Kelly's career demonstrated the demands of these roadways, which ranged from frozen lakes that groaningly supported her truck to cliffsides where a miscalculation could result in a plummet of hundreds of feet. Why, therefore, did she persevere? Perhaps the hard task was the reason, perhaps it's the rush, or perhaps it was simply the indomitable will to continue moving ahead even while everyone else gave up. Not only that, but Lisa wasn't the only one. The ice was also Alex Deagorski's home. What led to a man like Alex making a lasting impression on the ice? Additionally, the number of times it almost caused him to die. The iced roads as Alex Deagorski traverses them. History Channel. Is our purpose in being here? It is our intention to advertise Ice Road Truckers. We are currently 4 episodes into the season, so please be advised. You can't call Alex Deagorski a mere driver. He commands attention. People who have met him would describe him as having a commanding presence, a hearty laugh, and large shoulders. The sum of Alex's thoughts on life are not ordinary. He is a philosopher, as his manager Diane Gibson described it once. She adds, he is still available for interviews, trade exhibitions, and trucking events, and that he is open-minded and willing to answer questions about everything. When you meet Alex in person, you'll see him handle situations like a wise old owl. But in his off-screen life, who is he? He resides in the outpost of Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories of Canada, which is situated on the edge of Great Slave Lake. About 20,000 individuals make it their home. Plus, Alex and Louise have been married they were married for 50 years and brought up 11 children together. Every year, for the past 30 years, Alex has driven on the ice roads, which are essentially detours made by frozen lakes. Typically in the months of February and March, he transports anything you can think of, including steel, food, pipes, and even complete structures. On occasion, his runs will lead him 400 kilometers north of Yellowknife, all the way to the Akati Dominion diamond mine. But if everything goes according to plan, that journey takes 16 hours at a full load speed of 25 kilometers per hour. Additionally, First Nation settlements that are inundated during the summer months can be connected via the ice roads. However, his true nature is not immediately apparent. Alex kept coming up in the personality hunt that the Ice Road Truckers producers in Los Angeles were conducting. He was the only proprietor of his contracting firm back then. However, being the only survivor of a 4-day ordeal on Slave Lake, during a devastating storm who they spoke with, and the rest is, as they say, history. Thus, did he find it odd to be followed around by a camera crew? When they attempted to get a photo of me undressed, Alex would jokingly brush it aside. With an impish grin on his face, he says, what do you think about my bathing habits? I remove fleas by rolling around in the snow, then I slap myself in the butt, put on my jeans again, and return to the vehicle. The entire story was never told on the show. A lot of things went unnoticed. Alex concedes. He recalled an incident on the Dempster Highway when snow was falling and visibility was poor, as well as other political squabbles, including First Nation people expelling us from reservations. I don't believe we contacted anybody, but we did send several crew members to the hospital. At about the same moment, a member of the film team was attempting to pass him in a Suburban. I told him to go ahead. Alex remembers. He was on my side, but his visibility diminished as we came closer. He slammed into my rear bumper and totaled his Suburban. In his book, King of the Road, Alex confesses that relinquishing his privacy was more difficult than he had anticipated. I enjoy my own company immensely, he writes. I'm the funniest guy I know, and Alex still thinks that life with a camera in your cab wasn't always fun. In my head, I have these fascinating and thought-provoking conversations with myself. What's more, I rarely quarrel during these sessions. Having cameras around made me long for solitude, something you should be aware of. On the frozen highways, where because of the gravity of the situation, the need of trust amongst drivers cannot be overstated. When you're on the road, you're not only transporting goods, your life literally hangs in the balance. Many have been alarmed by Lisa Kelly's suggestions regarding Alex Debogorski for quite some time. Viewers believed they knew the large man with the mischievous grin and sparkling eyes. If Lisa's comments are hinting at something more profound, perhaps we didn't know Alex as thoroughly as we believed. The fissures in the ice. There are no second chances when you're out there on the ice. It's not often that the ice beneath your tires is thinner than it should be. especially when the wind feels like knives cutting through your flesh. That's why the hint that Lisa Kelly dropped about Alex Deagorski hit so close to home. If there's any tension between the two most famous faces from ice road truckers, fans are sure to be you're going to be curious about the reasoning behind it. As previously stated, Lisa Kelly didn't come from a trucking family. She was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but her family relocated to Wasilla, Alaska, when she was 6 years old. Even though she was used to the cold, truck driving wasn't something she had considered. First, she returned to Michigan for college. After a while, she dropped out and worked her way through a variety of jobs, including gas station cashier, pizza delivery, and even school bus driving, until she finally settled on her true calling, being behind the wheel. At that point, she set out on her motorcycle eyes, on a CDL and a position with Kalilele Transportation in Alaska. But, as previously stated, being a woman in trucking meant working twice as hard, moving faster, lifting heavier, and never letting anyone think she couldn't handle the same loads as the men. She knew there was all eyes were on her, ready for her to make a fool of herself, but she never gave them what they wanted. Then the call that would alter her life's trajectory arrived. While Alice was at work, her supervisor gave her a number to a TV crew that was seeking truck drivers. She consented to speak with them before 4-8 seasons of ice road truckers and spin-off runs in the Himalayas. Bolivia. She was fully aware of the show's purpose and later learned that she had been cast in part as audience eye candy. This revelation only served to fuel her determination to prove she was more than just a gorgeous face. Lisa proved to the world that she could run with the best of them, oversized loads on the Dalton Highway in Alaska. Dangerous cliffside roads abroad, but the media frequently lauded her for her beauty rather than her abilities. As when she was named the sexiest trucker, while Alex Deagorski entered the show from a different perspective, Lisa shrugged it off, claiming it was better than being branded the fattest. But it was clear that she was constantly fighting a battle of perception. The producers began their search in the Northwest Territories of Canada, where they repeatedly overheard the name Big Guy, Deep Laugh, along with anecdotes about him. Upon finally locating him, they discovered that he had been stranded on a barge for 4 days due to a tremendous storm, Great Slave Lake, but that didn't deter them. Alex has been hauling ice for more than 30 years out of Yellowknife, a small town on the lake's shore. In case you were unaware, Alex has transported groceries, steel beams, and entire buildings across frozen lakes to mining camps and Summer Island First Nation villages. The jokes masked the reality of a job where mistakes can be fatal. Alex witnessed trucks drive through the ice, and those trucks, along with others like them. The drivers who were assigned to these tasks did not return. Alex claims that 60 men had died in the Northwest Territories in the past 60 years, a period when safety was not a priority. You would expect a link of mutual respect or conflict when you put these two together. Alex, a seasoned veteran, who had seen it all, and Lisa, a driven rookie, trying to prove herself into this environment that Alex had already mastered. Lately, when I look at what is there a common bond among the ice road truckers, more specifically, the shared bond among the ice truckers, Lisa Kelly never imagined ice truckers would have a bond like that. After all, what happens when the cameras aren't rolling? This was the last season of Road Truckers, she thought to herself, each season as she gathered her stuff. Perhaps this will be the final one. The calls didn't stop coming though, and the cameras never stopped shooting. Eventually, she found herself back on the aisle. Keep going, if it's still going, she thought to herself as she traversed the ice roads. She was merely employed by Carroll Transportation, transporting goods across Alaska, when the production crew began to snoop about. Her intention was never to become a TV star. It was a struggle for the producers to get a woman on the show, but she proved herself, and soon she was the only female driver in the cast. But that didn't concern her. They were looking for drivers with a little of personality and grit. I kind of claimed that spot, she shrugged. Lisa confesses that she initially felt dubious when another woman, Maya Spur, arrived, because she assumed they were attempting to supplant her. Eventually though, Maya proved to be enthusiastic, receptive to instruction, and they got along swimmingly. Lisa recognized her potential, and mutual respect blossomed. The journeys were solitary, but the labor was rewarding, and Lisa flourished under adverse circumstances. But nothing could have prepared her for season 11. The first time filming had taken place without her driving partner and best friend, Daryl Ward. Returning to those frozen routes without him felt heavy and weird. Daryl had always been the one. With his exceptional load arranging skills, long-distance running, and unparalleled speed, he would often be halfway back from a delivery when Lisa was still sleeping on the side of the road. Now that she had to take on more of that responsibility, she made an effort to honor his memory. Following Daryl's death, their company continued to carrying on through the winter with the assistance of his son, Reno. Lisa initially believed he was just a brazen teen, but by the second year, he had matured, sharpened, and was even more receptive to feedback. Collaborating with him had become a delight, and they continued to run the business, operating exclusively during the winter roads. But Lisa's path to trucking began modestly, long before television. She had been an oilfield courier, driving without a CDL, and doing offers practice runs with larger rigs in the yard. When she eventually, after getting her license, she slowly made her way toward the ice roads, taking local routes and line driving. Coming from a farm where work ethic wasn't negotiable, she wanted to be the most versatile driver possible, able to handle city streets, dirt roads, ice crossings, and hauling anything, from doubles to livestock. Her most difficult driving challenge was from a continent far away, India, Bolivia, and Peru. Unlike the wide semis, these narrow roads were terrifying, and she was the only North American driver to complete the first season of Ice Road Truckers' Deadliest Roads. Now, let me explain. In India, the trucks were smaller, less powerful, and carried more cargo. Despite this, she mastered the art of holding a rig on a steep hill with one foot, coordinating the clutch, brake, and gas. Her heel prevented her from slipping backwards as the engine revved up to full speed. Some drivers skipped practice days, but Lisa was there every day, learning the trucks thoroughly in out before taking on those treacherous switchbacks. This journey was more than just a driving test. It was her first taste of life on the other side of the mountain nations. As she stepped into the mayhem of India's highways, she thought, holy culture shock. It was amazing to witness the ways people lived and worked in such diverse environments. Eventually, Lisa's connection with trucks diminished, mostly due to shooting commitments. Spend much too much time away from the wheel to keep a steady position with the company. Instead, she steps in as needed to get her hands back on the wheel. But her true calling is tending to her horses. Lisa has saved several animals from homes where their owners couldn't afford medical treatment, or were ill-equipped to deal with medical matters. One mare, crippled by a bone chip in her knee, has injections every month to aid her joints. Another was her former horse, Sky, whom she was compelled to sell when she was a young filly. And as for her residence, on her 2 acres of land, she began with a little horse, thinking that was the limit of the space available. However, as anybody who loves animals knows, barns can quickly grow. So, she extended stalls, built an upstairs apartment, and now keeps 6 horses of various sizes. While Lisa still has a soft spot for horses, her passion for speed has never faded. She met her husband at a dirt bike track and still owns her bikes, which she went back in the saddle for after a 2-year hiatus. One interesting aspect of her celebrity life is the number of female fans that approach her. Truckers and aspiring truckers who truly value her demonstration that women can handle big rigs just as well as men. Some remember her from the show's most vulnerable moments. For example, a man who was suicidal until he saw her in India confronting a steep uphill with a bus wrote to her. The descent was more important to her than any amount of money or television. Time, if she could do it, he reasoned, I can do it, and he chose to remain living. Lisa valued that more than any amount of money or television time. 3 out of 4 Ice Road Truckers, Deagorski, Reno Ward, and Art Burke met the same terrifying place no driver has ever been before. She claims that every difficult thing, every risky situation, and every painful experience was worth it. Does Alex believe the same thing? Let's find out, as she lies buried in a snow-covered ditch. If your estimate was correct, the only one who avoided problems was Lisa Kelly, but not even she was spared. A week had passed since she had lost a significant portion of her truck while attempting to assist a fellow driver. On his way to Bobtail to collect a load, Alex's big white Mac nearly spun around completely on a bumpy, slippery ice road. The only thing that stopped him was the snowbank. After spending 6 long hours assisting another trucker whose brakes had frozen solid, now the tables were turned. He stood by the side of the road, his stomach in a knot, and he murmured, "Oh crap," as he stepped out into the freezing cold. He started chaining up, but it didn't work. The truck still wouldn't budge. Finally, he reached for his shovel and started digging, the cold wind ripping at his clothing with each motion. Suddenly, 2 men in a pickup truck with a trailer pulled up, volunteered to help, and fastened a harness to rescue him. They had to resort to using a heavier strap after the first one snapped like a twig. But after a second try, Alex's truck finally came loose, allowing him to resume his work. His next stop was at Pecangium, a First Nation village, where he was to collect a heavy construction shack. One of numerous that night had fallen, and the darkness pressed against his headlights as he eased forward. But the task was challenging, and promised big pay. The road ahead was narrow and twisty, and his load stretched 60 feet behind him. "It seems like a good time to say a prayer," he whispered to himself before clenching his fist around the wheel. Tragically, another misfortune struck just then. As the trailer rounded a sharp bend, its rear end slid into the snow and wouldn't budge. Once again, Alex was left out in the cold. Pushing the truck through the turn with all his might, he finally managed to get it through. Meanwhile, Lisa Kelly was running solo to Casablanca, her first trip without her truck since the wreck earlier in the season. She was still paying off the repairs and had never been on this trail before. On the road ahead of her, Reno Ward, son of the late Daryl Ward, was making his way to Big Trout Lake. She had previously described it as a crapshoot, saying that the road could turn perilous without warning out there. Around a blind bend and slid directly in front of him, Reno swerved sharply, avoiding the worst, but still clipped the pickup before crashing into the snowbank. At that point, his truck came to a halt. He summoned Lisa for assistance through the CB radio, but she wasn't there. "Hesitation, there's no use in going around you," she remarked as she fastened her truck to reach. The snow clung firmly, even after she tugged at it multiple times. With unwavering will, she retreated and attempted it again, this time with increased force. She did that when sensed a repulsive noise. It had ripped off her truck's front bumper. Feeling frustrated and averse to more harm, she continued towards Casablanca, abandoning Reno until the following morning, when a road crew freed him. Certainly instructive, he acknowledged that the risks would continue for every person. The price of doing good is something that Todd Dway discovered the hard way. He noticed a flatbed trapped in the snow when he was on his way to Round Lake, with a cargo of construction supplies. The motorist said he became stranded as he shifted to allow 2 vehicles to pass. Tow was connected up by Todd. Strap got 2 tries in before giving up. Quickly he prayed, "Please let this work," and fastened chains to his tires, bringing the flatbed gliding back onto the icy road. A salutation. Even though he had succeeded, he had destroyed his chains in the process, and there were still 400 meters to go. Get out. His voyage continued beyond this point. Absolutely not. Near his final destination, Todd encountered a particularly treacherous mix for truck drivers. A steep descent is met with an equally steeper ascent, encumbered in black ice. Right after he was initially tried to cross but was unsuccessful, he tried again, and this time his truck managed to gain enough traction to pass over the peak. He then drove into Round Lake, where the appreciative residents helped him unload his goods. But Lisa Kelly was up against an even greater obstacle. As previously stated, she was after Daryl Ward's death. She went on her longest solo run to date, shouldering the burden of managing her company. She had never experienced a sideways slide in her life until that fateful night on a deserted road heading near Tattle Lake. The front end ended up buried in a snowbank because of this. The vehicle's side door was stuck shut, the wheels refused to turn, and her toolbox was out of reach. Because she had nowhere else to go, she spent the night in the cab. Luckily, some unsolicited assistance arrived first thing in the morning in the shape of passing hunters. Because one of them was a mechanic, he crawled beneath the vehicle, diagnosed a problem with the clutch, and quickly adjusted it, while advising her to be careful. After repeatedly thanking him, she cautiously resumed her journey, albeit a day later than planned. At the same time, Alex had his first trial of the season on a run to Pawangi, which included a 10-mile lake crossing. Prior to that, he arrived at a ravine and chose to gauge its depth. It turns out, this was a terrible choice. He fell waist-deep into the frigid water as the ice caved in. He shook his head in self-criticism and thankfully made it back to the truck in time to change. By the time he reached Fishing Lake, he had left his door ajar in case breaking ice. His weight caused the surface to break and shatter, and orange warning flags indicated that there was danger ahead. Gradually, he managed to cross. Along with Art Burke, Alex halted to assist trapped tourists during these perilous weeks, even though the weather was eroding the ice roads. Even Alex helped a lone man cross a 7-mile lake after picking him up and feeding him as he trudged through the snow. By hopping in the driver's seat and powering the vehicle up the hill, Lisa rescued another trucker who had become stuck at the base of the slope. A stranded automobile was yoked back onto the road by Burke. In the world, compassion was always available. You might pay a big penny, though, as these truckers were well aware, life on the ice roads may be like that. Lisa doesn't sugarcoat the truth about who has your back, so you find out who they are fast. Everything she is saying about Alex Deagorski right now is accurate. Leave a comment with your ideas. Please subscribe and like the video. Before you leave, please play the video that is currently playing.